pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is convened in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey. Let the official minutes reflect that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publishing a notice in the Asbury Park Press on Friday, January 8th, 2021, the Press of Atlantic City and the Star Ledger, and also forwarded to the Toms River Times, Toms River Patch, and WOBM News on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021, and thereafter posting same on the Town Hall Bulletin Board for such notices and filing same with the Township Clerk pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Township Council on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. The meeting dates have also been posted on the Township webpage. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Here.
Councilman Kopp.
Here.
Councilman Lotano.
Here.
Councilman Roderick.
Here.
Councilman Turnbach.
Here.
Council Vice President Maruka.
Councilwoman Maruka had called, she had a prior engagement and then a family commitment. She's unable to attend.
Move for an excused absence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council President Gagan.
Here.
First item on the agenda, the approval of minutes from November 23rd, 2021.
Move the minutes.
Second.
The motion was made by Councilman Kopp, second by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Council Vice President Maruka, absent. Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Next, tonight we have for honoring resolutions and presentations, we have an Eagle Scout with us. We have Alexander Kralchik, Small Business Saturday, and the retirement of Bill Peterson from our building department.
Move the honoring resolutions and presentation.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, seconded by Councilman Turnbach. Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes. Okay. Council, if you would. All right. Honoring resolutions, and first we would like to provide a resolution and presentation to Alex Kralchik. Come on up. Alex, as you know, obtained the honor of becoming an Eagle Scout. It takes quite a bit of dedication and commitment on behalf of yourself and all the different awards and sets you up for different life skills. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your project, what you did?
At the St. Joseph Cemetery, we cleaned and replanted all the shrines around the cemetery.
Very nice. A lot of them unfortunately get neglected, so thank you very much for doing that. On behalf of the mayor and the town council, we have a proclamation. Okay. And next we have Small Business Saturday. That's all I ask. Whoop. There we go. So, Small Business Saturday, it's something going across the country. We have a proclamation where whereas the Township of Toms River celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy, and whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector, and in the United States, 88% of the consumers feel a personal commitment to supporting these small businesses. especially in the wake of the pandemic, and small business owners have really pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. Just a little bit show of our appreciation, proclamation for you to hang in your office for all the small businesses downtown. Thank you very much. Say something, Mary? Come on. Yeah, there. Why not? Go for it. I'll even lower the mic.
Thanks, I'm a little short. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. It really takes a community to help the small businesses. And this past Saturday and the previous Saturday, we were able to have many people come down to 53 Main Street. So we hope through the holidays, you guys can continue and shop small and stay local. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And certainly, last but not least, Bill Peterson. Come on up.
Officially retired.
There we go. Congratulations on your retirement and all your years of service to the town.
For the township, and it's even going to be a bigger pleasure not working for the township.
Continuing on with the agenda, item 7 is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing various sections of Chapter 348, Land Use and Development Regulations, of the Township Code regulating tree placement, planned developments, and general development plans. Final reading.
This is the final reading. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Seeing none, I move to close the public comments portion for this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Move the ordinance on final.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, seconded by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
No.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Item 8 is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing various sections of Chapter 348. I think that was a duplication.
Yeah.
My mistake. Number 8 is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, adopting Amendment Number 2 to the redevelopment plan for the Hooper Caldina redevelopment area pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7. Final reading.
Okay. This is the final reading. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter?
Seeing none, I move to close the public comments portion for this ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Move the ordinance on final.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, seconded by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Actually, it was me that seconded it.
Oh, Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Number 9, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending the redevelopment plan for the Phase 1 downtown waterfront redevelopment area and the redevelopment plan for the downtown core rehabilitation area and Robbins Parkway redevelopment area to delete private schools as a permitted use, to add Block 658.01 to the downtown core rehabilitation area, and to remove size restrictions on microbreweries and artisan distilleries in the downtown core redevelopment plan. Final reading.
So final reading, does any member of the public wish to be heard?
Seeing none, motion to close public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Move the ordinance on final?
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Lotano, seconded by Councilman Kopp. Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Item 10, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, authorizing the exchange of certain lands with the County of Ocean within the Hooper-Caudina redevelopment plan area owned by the Township of Toms River, known as the municipal rights-of-way of Caudina Avenue, Salerno Avenue, and Castelbuono Avenue, in exchange for County of Ocean-owned parcels identified as Block 606.01, lots 374 through 379, on the official tax map of the Township of Toms River. This is a final reading.
Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this?
Seeing none, I move to close the public comments portion for this ordinance.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Move the ordinance.
Second?
Motion was made by Councilman Kopp, second by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Item 11 is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, establishing a new Chapter 253 of the Township Code entitled Continued Use and Occupancy of Residential Dwellings to implement regulations requiring certificates of continued use and occupancy upon transfers of ownership of residential dwellings. First reading.
I was, Council President, I would
Yes.
like, if he would be so inclined, I would like either Township Engineer Bob Shankalian or Township Planner David Roberts to explain to the public just what this is intended to do.
We can do that. Mr. Chinkalian?
I'll do my best to give an overview. We also have Craig Ambrosio, the Director of Code Enforcement, who also can give in more detail. But essentially, Toms River is looking to introduce an ordinance before you, similar to other towns, that would require an inspection of a dwelling before it changes title. Right now, we don't have anything such as this. So if there's outstanding permits, unfortunately in the case of substantial damage determinations, all things that the buyer doesn't always know about, may be penalized for later to find out that the house had open permits and they're getting maybe they have a building violation, maybe they didn't realize the house was substantially damaged and has to be elevated. There's a lot of things that over the years we've seen, illegal sheds, illegal fences, anything. We've reduced as you'll see in the ordinance, we're going to have a checklist. It's going to be a limited in nature, outstanding permits and life safety items. Similar to a rental CO. Actually, if you rent a house in Toms River, we can conduct an inspection for that, but if you buy a house, we don't. Ground fault, I think we all know a story a while ago about a house that changed title and a young woman was electrocuted in the boat lift. Maybe we would have known about the permit, maybe we would have found the ground fault on that. So it's a limited inspection that we will that will take place between title. But there's also
I'm sorry. How would this impact those folks who came down a few weeks ago regarding their homes being classified as substantially damaged? How would this impact their ability to transfer title to someone?
That's a great point. It would not have restricted the ability to sell the property, but the buyer would have been made aware. Because as we heard, I think there was one person at the audience 2 weeks ago that said they had no idea. They wouldn't have been able to say that because it would have been brought to their attention. They would have gotten a list of all outstanding permits, so they would have known that the house was on that list.
How about going forward now? Somebody wants to sell the home or
That-
transfer deed, are you saying that they'd no longer be able to live, someone would no longer be able to occupy the home?
No,
Let's say they didn't lift, right? Because that's my main concern here. I would support this, but
Yeah.
if you're saying that someone who hasn't lifted, that owns their home, transfers title, and someone's not going to be able to then reside there,
no, we're not.
I would
we're
not be
saying that at
supportive of
all.
this.
They would still be able to sell, but they would be put on notice, and that's something we may come up later with substantial damage. I have an update as well on that, but the most important part of this is to make them aware. There's also a provision for a transfer. For instance, suppose it's a fixer-upper, or for lack of a better word, a knockdown. You would also, the house can still be sold, but the buyer wouldn't be able to occupy it until they got the permits, cleaned it up, whatever it may need. So we're not going to stop any sales.
but on the record now, someone sells a home, it's classified as substantially damaged. They're not lifted. They weren't really damaged. They fixed the house themselves. Is someone else going to be able to get that CO?
They would get the CO, but they might, if penalties or whatever's required of that house, they were made aware of it and would be responsible, because that goes with the land.
So you would have to lift.
Lift
That's
or
my
mitigate,
main-
yes, yeah. Bring it into compliance, whatever it is.
But this isn't stopping that. Those people, according to FEMA, have to be brought into compliance anyway. The continuing occupancy is not going to stop people from selling their home any more than anything else. I mean,
That's correct, because this is a municipal, we're calling a municipal CO. It's not a CO in the sense of the construction code.
One more hypothetical.
The last
sorry.
paragraph of the ordinance actually spells this out. It actually says you could go forward with the sale as long as you agree that you're well-informed, that you are responsible for whatever was left pending, which the former owner is already responsible for. Like, these aren't new, these aren't new permits, they're not new violations, it's not anything new. It's so that buyers don't get penalized for things they aren't made aware of, like the example that Mr. Chakelian gave.
Well,
But
one
it's
other-
in the last paragraph of the ordinance, if you read it.
I did read it, Lori.
Great.
Thank you.
Would have answered that.
Let's suppose someone passes the house on to their child, right? It's a summer home or what have you. As soon as that deed changes hands, the CO would then require that new owner to bring this house into what the federal government considers to be compliant.
Yeah, yes, as I said, there's a provision in the code for a transfer of a non-compliant home, but again, this isn't a construction CO, it's more to make the buyer aware of what is outstanding. For instance, I may decide today that, you know what, I don't want to lift my house, I'm willing to take a lower price and I want to sell it. And you may be willing to buy the house at a lower price knowing you have to raise it. We're not stopping that at all, but you now know that it's a condition, whereas depending on if your realtor or your attorney didn't perhaps do all the due diligence, you might not have known.
I have you on all that.
Okay.
A child inherits the home. Do they have to get the CO, and will it be granted if they don't lift the home?
It's a question for the attorney. I mean, inheriting a house, that's still a title, transfer of title,
They
correct?
wouldn't have to get it, not on an inheritance, they wouldn't have to get the CO, because the estate would now have title to the house.
For
If the
probate
estate
stuff,
goes
right?
if the estate goes to sell it
Okay.
to a third party, then the estate would be responsible, whoever the administrator is, or the executor of the estate would be, then to get the CO.
And could a CO be granted if the house is not lifted and is supposed to be lifted? Would a CO be granted?
Yeah, because the buyer can agree to do the lifting.
I think, let me understand your question.
I should have went to law school.
If,
I think it's a pretty simple question.
You hand it down
Did I-
to you hand it down to your son or your child, and
Whoever it is,
It's
they
not
have
a
to, they have to
transfer,
lift the
there's-
home. The federal government says that home has to be lifted. Someone inherits the home, they need to get a CO or what have you. Will they be granted a CO if the home is not, if the home has to be lifted and it's not lifted?
well,
Can they move in?
Well, as to substantially damaged, we never kicked anybody out of a house. We never rescinded a CO. So the only thing that's really up for a possible issue with a future owner would be potentially a fine, potentially not getting flood insurance. So they're not getting kicked out. This isn't a New Jersey Uniform Construction Code CO. If they inherited the house, and I don't want to screw this up, Anthony, so I'm asking you, if they inherited the house and it's not a transfer,
But like, if the estate goes to sell it, say the children inherit it and they don't want it, they live out of state or something like that, then the estate would be responsible for getting the CO if they go to sell it to somebody else.
Do you think we could table this for 2 weeks so that we can be sure about this before we go forward?
Well, again, the status of the property, it doesn't change. It's just making the new owner
Aware.
of that property aware that, maybe GFIs need to be replaced, that maybe there's some structural damage that wasn't, they're not looking to nitpick, just the bigger safety life hazard type violation.
I just mean, the professionals don't seem sure, so how could we
They're
be sure?
absolutely certain, 100%. And we've had so many buyers, and I'm not talking about the substantially damaged Sandy damage. I'm talking about so many buyers who've complained to us over the years that they bought a house, there was a shed put on it, the shed was built on part of the wetlands
Wetlands are
that
over the
happens to
property
cross their
line.
property. Now they're being fined. They have to lift a shed that's been there for 10 years or more. I mean, this happens all the time, that people did construction in their homes, they didn't close out the permits, and we have just hundreds and hundreds of buyers being penalized all the time. This is supposed to make the buyer aware. It doesn't change the circumstances of the property, it doesn't change the circumstances of the permit, of the fines, of anything, and it doesn't stop the sale either.
More of a
So
buyer.
either the
Buyer
seller
beware.
can fix it, or the buyer can do it.
And we're on for first reading tonight, so this
It's
is
not
going
the
to be
first reading,
consideration.
so we have,
I mean, you have weeks.
you have 2 weeks to consider it before final anyway. So,
Thank you very much, Mrs. Callahan.
We did have an awful lot of folks here that were concerned about that, and
this has
Okay, we'll
nothing,
hear-
this does not
so no
have
one,
any
no one would be
impact
interested in tabling?
on the
it?
federal standing.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to
Is there
table.
a second on Councilman Roderick's motion? Okay, motion dies. Okay.
Move the ordinance on first?
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, second by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick,
Yes.
Councilman Kopp,
Yes.
Councilman Lotano,
I would like to say that I am conflicted on this particular thing. I know I've already put a lot of time into thinking about it, and, we have 2 more weeks to discuss it. This is a ordinance to protect the buyer. You buying a house in Toms River will be made aware of any issues. People finish basements all the time without getting inspections and permits. This is going to mitigate that. Also, I do sell some homes from time to time in the town, and I know a lot of people moving, especially down from North Jersey, they already had to do this. So when they come down here, they want to see permits for everything. The pool that went in 1992, the basement, the furnace, the air conditioner, it's because their town has implemented this to protect buyers. So I am conflicted about it. I'm going to vote yes, but I'm going to continue to think about it for the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Councilman Roderick,
No.
Councilman Turnbach,
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Item 12 is an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, amending and supplementing various sections of the Township Code to restructure the administrative departments of the township government to place the Division of Parks, Buildings, and Grounds under the Department of Public Works. First reading.
Move the ordinance on first?
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, seconded by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick,
Yes.
Councilman Kopp,
Yes.
Councilman Lotano,
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
I was wondering if either the business administrator or the mayor could explain, are we eliminating any positions, or are we creating 13? So we're creating 13, and the ordinance says we're creating 13, but
No,
it doesn't say how
there'll be
many we're
some- There'll
eliminating.
be some positions eliminated. This was a recommendation from the efficiency study done by the council. This was one of the recommendations. There'll be a saving of, I think it's 3 positions.
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I think it's 1 foreman, 2 blue collar, and a clerical/secretary. Plus, it should cut down on overtime. They're estimating the savings to be $375,000.
There was a lot of duplication between the Public Works and the Buildings and Grounds. So now if we have it all under one department, that'll eliminate duplication.
Any positions going?
I just told you.
It's
Matt, you wanna
one
read it?
foreman, 2 blue collar, and 1 clerical secretary.
I told you it'd be
And
three.
there'll be overtime. Both of these departments have a lot of heavy equipment, and it makes sense to share whatever they can, instead of buying 2 dump trucks. Hopefully, you buy one and they can split it.
Your vote, Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan?
Yes.
Item 13, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, authorizing entry of a real estate purchase and sale agreement with FDS Toms River Urban Renewal LLC as the designated redeveloper of Block 606.01, lots 374 through 379, and Block 606.02, lots 394, 395, 406, 409, 410, and 411, within the Hooper-Caldina redevelopment plan area for redevelopment of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic. This is a first reading.
Move the ordinance on first?
Second?
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, second by Councilman Lotano. Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Councilman?
Sorry.
Yes. Oh. Councilman Lotano?
Yes, sorry.
Councilman Cobb?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan?
Yes.
Item 14 is a resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, adopting a First Amendment to redevelopment agreement with FDS Toms River Urban Renewal LLC regarding the development of U.S. Department of the Veterans Affairs community-based outpatient clinic with the Hooper-Caldina redevelopment plan area.
Move the resolution?
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, second by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan?
Yes.
Next up is our consent agenda. All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired on any item, that item will be considered separately.
Does any member of the council have any item you'd like discussed or voted on separately?
Yes.
Council President, can I get a roll call on S's and Sam?
S as in Sam, yes. Next,
G.
G as in Gulf.
Yep. FF and
F and-
LL.
F, G, and L.
I think you said F.
FF.
Double F.
And LL.
Double F.
So, double F, and what else?
G and double L.
And double L. G and double L, okay? Okay, does any member of the public have any item you'd like to see discussed separately? Mr. Anderson? Q is in Queen? Okay, double L, all right. Okay, any other member of the public have any item you'd like to discuss separately? Okay. I'll
So
take a mo-
move the balance of the consent agenda except for, and Allison, I'm going to ask you to read out. It's S, G, double L, double F,
And Q.
Q.
and Q.
Yes.
Move the balance of the consent agenda except for those items that I just named.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Yurick, second by Councilman Kopp, to move the consent agenda with the exception of items S as in Sam, G as in Golf, FF, LL, and Q. Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes. Okay, we'll first do item G. Councilman Roderick, did you want a roll call vote or on that, or
Well,
did you have a question?
I had a question for the mayor. I know when I walked around town during the campaign, I had 4 people 4 different people talked to me about getting fined for their fire alarm going off. And he said it was pretty substantial. And I'm unsure as to why we do that. I don't really approve of it. I mean, I don't think it's right. And I was just wondering why were we going to do this again?
Yeah, well, we don't control the fire alarm fees, but similar to burglar alarm fees, they get X amount free responses, so to speak, each year, and then after that, it's considered a nuisance alarm that they have to either address, maybe move their alarm sensors or whatnot.
Well, the way this was explained to me is there was no free pass. Basically, if you have a false alarm, you get a fine.
That's not the way it works. I've actually received letters myself.
Mayor Hill?
Yeah, I think, I
You get
believe, I
one.
don't know how many free you get, but it's between 2 and 3. I believe that's what it is.
But not commercially, I believe.
Okay.
Commercial doesn't get a free pass.
Yeah, residential, you definitely get one free, and then if you have a rationale for the second one, so I had my alarm company come clean the sensors, and so then I wasn't fined.
If you set your alarm and the landscaping company comes along and you have a sensor on a basement window and you have it alarmed, it'll go off. I got fined too.
They fined you too?
Yes, I got fined.
And they
Before
only
you were
fine
mayor
you
or
if the
after you were
police-
mayor?
No, I got fined. I was the mayor. I paid the fine.
They only
The
fine
alarm
you
went
also
off.
if the police respond. So
It
if
was a false alarm.
If
and
it
I
doesn't go so
paid.
far as the police responding, so if your alarm company calls you, which is the process, and they say, hey, is this, is everything okay? Should we send the police?
Right.
And you say,
You-
everything's fine, then you don't get,
Right.
it doesn't count.
I believe it's covered in the alarm ordinance, and as long as you have the proper password, you
Yes.
can cancel a response, be it police or fire, so.
Well, I just feel that people already pay taxes for these services, and if people come to respond, I mean, I feel like it's already been paid for, so fining residents I don't approve of. That being said, there hasn't been a roll call yet, so.
Okay, yeah.
Can
Again,
we
that-
ask, do you, I don't know if you were on the council when this was passed, or if the mayor might know why this was put into place in the first
It's
place?
been in effect for a number of years.
Yeah.
And again, it's to target what they refer to as nuisance alarms. I mean, if somebody's smoke alarm goes off every morning at 8:30, well, they might have to move the, the head away from the shower, steam showing up. Much like if a business, that every night at 5 o'clock, their alarm goes off and it generates a police response when they're busy. Is it a training error with the employees, or is it, an issue with the sensors on the doors? The intent of this is to get as many nuisance alarms resolved so that it doesn't warrant a response, be it fire, police, or whatever.
The folks that I had spoken to, they didn't strike me, they were mostly older folks, and they didn't strike me as folks that were creating any kind of nuisance, and they said it was.
Well, again, that's the term used. Did you look into the address and ask how many times there was a response there? No?
No,
Okay. I'll take a motion to move item G.
Move item G.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Yurick, seconded by Councilman Turnbach. Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
No.
Council President Gagan?
Yes. Okay, item Q is in Queen, Mr. Anderson. If you want to step forward, ask. This would be regarding the dune repair. I'm sure Mr. Kaling can answer. Go ahead.
Art Anderson, 12 Park Street. My question is, I know we agreed on the 438, but now they increased it $33,000, and this work was done before the summer, so it's just kind of wondering why we got a bill now.
Yeah.
Good question.
And this question came up, and it has been addressed. But
Well, it is a little peculiar. As we all know, we had the storm in February. We reduced this contract by taking the fence portion out because our pool in-house fence contractor could do it for less. Had it all ready for Memorial Day. Another storm came in. We ended up having to bring more sand to get the beach in progress. The contractor was actually very late in submitting his bill and his bond. So quite frankly, and God bless them for not needing the money on time. But in trying to wrap things up with FEMA, because we're still trying to get reimbursed from this, we brought it to his attention, and the work was done. It was done a while ago. Just, and he didn't bill us, so we didn't pay him.
And my other question was, if we got reimbursed from FEMA, well, how much should we get reimbursed out of the $438,000?
It's in this one?
We're actually working on that right now. FEMA and the Army are kind of playing back and forth. We put in an application for reimbursement from FEMA because, as you know, after the February storm, we contacted the Army Corps and we contacted DEP, and they said it was the township's responsibility. So we took the position that, well, if it's our responsibility, FEMA should step in. We applied to FEMA. They did issue a project worksheet. Myself and our consultant have been having meetings with them, the load tickets, all that. And unfortunately, as we all know with FEMA, it takes years sometimes. But all indications are that we're going to be getting some back. How much, I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Okay, I'll accept a motion to move item Q as in Queen.
Move item Q.
Second?
Motion made by Councilman Lotano, seconded by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Council President Gagan?
Yes. Next is item S as in Sam, the fire commissioner salaries and benefits. I have to abstain, but I'll take a motion to move that.
Roll call.
I think Councilman Kopp was looking for a roll call on that.
That's correct.
We would move item S.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Turnbach, seconded by Councilman Lotano. Councilman Turnbach?
Yes.
Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
Yes.
Councilman, Council President Gagan has to abstain.
I have to
Okay.
abstain,
Okay.
as does Councilman
You got
Kopp.
me too.
Oh, Councilman Kopp. I knew something wasn't right there. Okay. Councilman Kopp. Affirmative?
He's abstaining as well.
Abstain.
Oh, abstaining. Okay.
Okay, next we have item F as in Frank, F as in
FF.
Frank.
I just had a question for Bob Shankalian. I'm wondering why we're reducing the performance guarantees on this. I've been passed, and I don't know, is there any particular reason? I didn't think it was anywhere near done, or am I
No,
wrong on that?
They're not, in this case, they're not asking for a release, they're asking for a reduction. This is a larger subdivision, and under the municipal land use law, as the contractor,
No, I understand all that, but we originally asked for like 90,000, and now it's like 40,000? I mean, it seems quite a reduction. I mean, what's changed about the project that it's so much cheaper to insure now?
as he completes certain things, there's a list of everything he has to do, the curb, the pavement, the storm pipe. So as he's done certain things, he's allowed by law to request that we reduce it to no less than, we can't reduce it less than 33%. But the storm pipes and, all those things, once he requests it, we go out, we verify that he did certain items, and it comes right off the form, whatever the percentage is.
Okay, I'm just asking, because it looked very undone. So,
Well, again, the storm pipe, you don't see, the curb, base paving, things like that. If it's on the list and he's completed it and we verified it, it comes off.
Okay.
But I mean, he may have houses that are being built for another year or so. He might not, the top paving is still on here, final grading, but again, a lot of the underground things are complete.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Council, your pleasure with item F as in Frank, F as in Frank.
Move item FF.
Second?
Motion made by Councilman Lotano, second by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes. The next is item L as in Lincoln, L as in Lincoln, double L.
My last question, I'm sorry, I'm loaded with questions tonight. Mr. Roberts, I was wondering if you could explain to the folks at home and those who are here why it is we're bringing I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm drawing a blank here, Main Street into the into the redevelopment plan?
It's actually the rehabilitation area. As I mentioned, I think when this resolution was referred to the planning board, Block 658.01 is the block that is bounded by Iron Street, Main Street, and Water Street. It's probably best known for being the largest building on the block is the Wells Fargo building. A lot of people recognize the block because of the presence of the bank there. That site, that block was intended to be added to the Phase 1 redevelopment area in 2011. It never was finalized because of Sandy. So it's been in limbo. So it's actually related to item 9, the ordinance in item 9. Meanwhile, in 2000, I think it was 2018, we qualified a portion of the downtown areas in need of rehabilitation. They were the non-residential zones along Main Street and along Washington Street and along Water Street. That block, because it was assumed to be part of the redevelopment area, was left out. So now it's not in neither the rehab area or the redevelopment area. So what this ordinance does, or what this resolution does, and the statute requires the process to be that the council sends the resolution to the planning board for confirmation with consistency with the master plan. Planning board did that on December 1st, is sending it back saying it is consistent with the master plan, that this block be added to the rehabilitation area so that both sides of Main Street from Iron Street to Water Street would be in the rehab area. Right now, only one side is in.
And I know you've explained this to the folks at home a number of times, and the folks who are here. I was wondering if you could again explain what are the benefits of being designated?
Well, basically, a rehabilitation area is different than a redevelopment area. It's totally voluntary in terms of the property owners, whether they take advantage of the redevelopment plan or not. Other than the fact that it would now be under the auspices of the Downtown Core redevelopment plan for the rehab area, the other advantage, if the Township Council chose to take that path, would be to provide for a 5-year tax incentive for existing property owners if they make an investment in their building.
So you get a tax incentive, and you also are subject to different zoning.
It would be the redevelopment plan it's effectively an overlay. So the redevelopment plan would.
You could go up.
Well, you could potentially do that now under the existing zoning. The mixed-use development is permitted in the existing zones. The redevelopment area does have certain other provisions in terms of dealing with parking and other things that the existing zoning doesn't have. But other than that,
and the tax benefits.
Other than that, it's really mostly the tax incentive that is affected. The other piece that this does is because it would be under a redevelopment plan. For example, if the Wells Fargo building, the owner of the Wells Fargo property, which includes actually 3 buildings, were to come in and want to do something with that property, we would have the ability to do a redevelopment agreement, just like we do in a redevelopment area, to get something that would benefit the general public at large. For example, as I mentioned before, I think the last time, there's a recommendation in the redevelopment plan that there be a public walkway to continue Washington Street to Iron Street. Under a traditional zoning, we would have no leverage to try to require that. Under the redevelopment plan, we have more leverage, potentially under a redevelopment agreement, in exchange for potentially removing that last building and opening up a corridor to Iron Street. That would be a negotiation that the council could undertake if they chose to under a redevelopment agreement. They wouldn't be able to do that unless that block was in the rehabilitation area. So there's a couple of additional tools that the council can use in terms of any future investment or development on those properties that they don't have under traditional zoning.
So in summary, this is good for increased, good for development downtown, and
also-
if you're behind this particular model.
Right, and it'll also encourage investment in existing buildings, which right now we haven't seen a whole lot of. We've seen some, but not a lot. The other thing that's really what the resolution really is, just to qualify that block as part of the rehab area, and the redevelopment plan amendments that we talked about earlier show the maps consistent with that. So it's kind of tied together with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Council, your pleasure on LL?
Move the resolution.
Second.
Motion
Wait,
made.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but there was a
Mr.
resident
Anderson?
that had wanted to come up as well.
Sure.
And he's raising his hand out there.
I
Sorry for
see that.
interrupting you.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Anderson, come on up.
Art Anderson, 12 Park Street. I'm just a little curious on the last one. So that piece of property, block 65801, is going to go into the Phase 1 agreement?
The other downtown core, the rehab area, that's the older downtown.
So it's going to go into...
Not in phase one.
It's not,
It's the whole block.
Okay. Mr. Tormol.
I just have one question to ask, because maybe I couldn't hear. Other than the tax benefit for the property owners, are there any other benefits where they would be receiving funds to rebuild, to help them restructure? Are they receiving any money as part of the redevelopment plan?
I'll try to answer that. It's a great question, but under a rehab area or a redevelopment area, there's really no funds involved in terms of, other than the tax incentives. The statute is very limited as to what municipalities can do to help encourage investment. It pretty much ties everything to property tax, unfortunately. Some other states include things like tax financing, where if you invest in your building and you increase its assessed value, we can capture that and reinvest it back into the area. We don't have anything like that in New Jersey. So under the redevelopment statutes and under the tax statutes, it's really the property tax incentive. So if the township were to adopt an ordinance allowing for a 5-year exemption, and you decided you wanted to put it on a roof or add a floor to your building on Main Street in this block or any other part of the rehab area, typically, once your development's done, you have your CO, then your taxes will go up right away. Because your tax assessor's going to get a copy of your building permit. This would, if the township council were to adopt that type of an ordinance, it would be paid 20, 40, 60, 80, 100% of taxes. So after you've made a big investment, you're not hit right away with that increased taxes. It's taken gradually. But after year 5, then the town's getting the benefit of full taxes on the property. So it's not a great incentive, but it is something that we think would help encourage some investment into existing properties. And it does allow the addition, if someone wanted to do a tear down rebuild, for example, on any of those blocks, then we have the ability in the redevelopment agreement to try to negotiate some kind of public benefit from that. One of the best examples is parking. Parking is a big issue downtown. The redevelopment plan allows for you to account for some of your parking off-site within a certain walking distance, but it would require potentially under a redevelopment plan a payment to the township to compensate the township for that parking space, and that would allow us to potentially create a fund to create a parking deck, parking. So that's. Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions regarding that?
Mr. Roberts, there's, I apologize, there's some language within the body of the resolution relative to old pipes via
Yes.
Suez, and what's the relevance of that?
That is because under the redevelopment housing law, under the rehab criteria, one of the criteria when there's no residential involved, and that's the case with our rehab area, there's no residential properties in it, is the condition and the age and the condition of the water and sewer lines. And the downtown has the oldest water and sewer lines in the township. And we qualified the rest of the downtown core on that basis back in 2018. This block was equally impacted by the same water and sewer lines. It was just left out because we thought it was in the redevelopment area. So, but that's why that reference is in there. We did check with Suez and with the MUA to verify the age and condition of the water and sewer lines in the downtown area. It's the oldest part of town, so it's the oldest infrastructure. They've replaced some sections, but there are still quite a few sections that haven't yet been replaced.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, council, your pleasure.
I believe we have a vote.
Yeah.
I can move it again. LL?
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Yurick, second by Councilman Kopp. Councilwoman Yurick?
Yes.
Councilman Kopp?
Yes.
Councilman Lotano?
Yes.
Councilman Roderick?
It's no secret that I'm not a proponent of the direction downtown and apartment buildings and 10-story buildings and such. So I respectfully vote no on this. Thank you for explaining.
Councilman Turnback?
I also don't support the 10-story towers downtown, but I'm going to vote yes to this.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Council President, some issue has come to my attention that will require a revote on item A on the consent agenda. So if I could have the clerk call a revote on item A, the resolution authorizing the refund of overpayment of taxes.
A, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, Ocean County, New Jersey, authorizing refund of overpayment of taxes for various properties.
On the revote, I would move item A.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Turnbach, seconded by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Abstain?
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
I believe we are up to the reports.
Correct.
Move the reports.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Turnbach, seconded by Councilwoman Yurick. Councilman Turnbach.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick.
Yes.
Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Next, we have the bills.
I'll move the bill list.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yep, second.
Councilman Lotano.
Motion made by Councilman Turnbach, second by Councilman Lotano. Councilman Turnbach.
Thank you. I'll abstain from PO 21-06392, payable to the magistrates. PO 21-06036, payable to the law office of Dasty McGuckin. I'm a local attorney in town. I have conflicts with both of those. Yes to the balance.
Councilman Lotano.
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurick.
Abstain from PO 21-05978, 21-06317, 21-06318, and 21-06319, payable to Remington and Vernick Engineers, and PO 21-06392, item 16, only as it pertains to recreation salaries. Yes to the balance.
Councilman Kopp.
I'm going to abstain from all bills payable to Owen and Little Associates and also all bills payable to the Board of Fire Commissioners, District 2. Yes to the balance.
Councilman Roderick.
Voting no to PO 21-06036, payable to Dasty, Murphy, and McGuckin. Yes to the balance.
Council President Gagan.
I just have two abstentions. One, the Board of Fire Commissioners, District 2, Purchase Order 21-03271, and the second to United Healthcare Insurance for Township Retirees, and that's 21-06221. Yes to the balance.
Next, we have elected officials' comments.
Mayor Hill.
Thank you, Council President. First of all, I want to thank the residents and employees of Toms River for the overwhelming generosity for the Marines Toys for Tots. I've been involved in this for the last 10 to 12 years. This year, we filled 10 boxes downstairs. You'll see them when you leave. The most we've ever done in prior years is 4. With the supply chain issues this year and inflation rising at a fastest pace in 40 years, everybody's donation will ensure that no child in this area goes without toys this Christmas. And I will mention that somebody left 3 Hess trucks, which are about $39 each. So somebody made a contribution over $100 to that program. At tonight's council meeting, the council approved the MOAs for contracts for 3 of our bargaining units whose contracts expire at the end of the year, the Teamsters, the PBA, and the CSOs. And these agreements met the needs of the employees and the township to ensure that the critical municipal services will continue without interruption. And finally, we have a lot to be thankful in Toms River this year with all that's been accomplished. The VA, the Surf Club coming to fruition. We've got a number of pickleball courts on the Barrier Island. We've got a new skate park. So it's been a very successful year for Toms River. And as we head toward Christmas, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Roderick.
I have nothing for this evening.
Councilman Latano?
Thank you, Council President. I want to say that we had the menorah lighting on Town Hall. It was a big success. I think pretty much everybody was there. The Christmas tree lighting this year, I think, all the years I've been coming, I think this was the most successful tree lighting we had. It was a great turnout. And then the Winter Wonderland, that was like the following day, I believe it was a big success as well. A lot of thanks goes out to Marin with the bid and all the small business owners. And other than that, have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Turnbull.
Thank you, Council President. Tomorrow, there'll be 750 hot meals available at the Assembly of God Church between 12 and 1:30 for any of those that are suffering with food insecurity. This Friday, with our partnership at Fulfill at the Toms River Presbyterian Church, this will, I believe, be our 91st consecutive week. And this Friday, December 17th, 2021, between the hours of 9 and 1, and we're going to be there early, so if you're heading to work before 9, we have volunteers as early as 6 o'clock there. But this Friday, for the holiday, Fulfill is going to provide us with 1,000 hams for those suffering from food insecurity, 1,000 apple pies, onions, potatoes, carrots, string beans, broccoli, oranges, yams. The Manchester Fire Department, Ridgeway Fire Department, I believe, is bringing 12 Christmas trees for anyone that needs Christmas trees. So really, it will be a beautiful day. Many of our volunteers are right from this community, and it's something I'm very proud to be a part of. So if you know of people in need, please send them to us on Friday. We'll provide certainly a Christmas dinner for them or a holiday dinner for them. This is my second to last meeting up here, and I wanted to conclude my council comments tonight by recognizing Councilwoman Hurick and Council Vice President Maria Maruca. And I've sat with them for 4 years up here, and I can tell you that no one on this council works harder than these two women and these two council representatives. They set the bar. They're people I consider great friends and family. The township is going to miss them when they're gone. So Councilwoman Hurick has been an advocate here for the arts. She's been an advocate for the homeless. She's the reason that our Code Blue is in Riverwood Park. If you go to the Veterans Park, there's an outdoor gym. Councilwoman Hurick got that done. And as long as I've known Councilwoman Hurick, she's never played politics up here. She's come here, she's worked with everybody. That's the job up here on this council. It's not to look at party, it's to do the job. And she's done that day in and day out up here and gotten the job done. And, you know, it was hard to hear when she didn't want to run, and she's a success professionally, and she wants to continue her career, but we're certainly going to miss her. Council Vice President Maruca, same thing. Someone I sat next to for my first 3 years, and you learn from Council Vice President Maruca. Watch her preparation at each and every meeting. She knows what she's doing. She's always prepared. She's read every resolution. She's read every ordinance. See who shows up at the township events, each parade, right? Each business opening. I can tell you I haven't missed a week in 90 weeks at the food distribution. I'm very proud of that, and I'm going to continue when I'm done here. But I can tell you that Councilwoman Maruca and Councilwoman Hurick and Council Vice President Maruca are there with me every week. They care deeply about this time. Ortley Beach had an advocate in Councilwoman Maruca. The Surf Club has just purchased. That's her work, and I really want to thank them for their friendship, and we'll be friends for years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Turnbull. I couldn't agree, and I've said it better myself. Councilman Kopp.
No comments tonight, Council President. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurick.
Wow, that was really sweet. And I've got to say, my admiration for Councilwoman Maruca is as great as Councilman Turnbull's. I was thinking about, on my way over here tonight, you know, I've been doing this for 4 years, and I decided that that was enough. Councilwoman Maruca put in 18 years. So sometimes we have students from the high school come from the AP Gov classes. They weren't born when she got onto the council. It's amazing. I mean, she has dedicated so much of her life, and it's going to be a big set of shoes to fill when she leaves the council. She was just amazing. And Councilman Turnbach, you know, he has done so many amazing things. He would take an idea that, you know, we said, let's get the Code Blue program into the Riverwood building. So I got it tipped off, but he just ran with it and has really taken it to further than the next level. I mean, he took it to changing the ordinance in Toms River to 35 degrees instead of 26 when it's not snowing, for opening the Code Blue Warming Center. And then he took it to the state level, which was amazing. He's done the same thing with the school funding, which you know, helped get Toms River $7 million in stabilization aid this year that we lost from the S1 school funding formula. So, I mean, he has just done some really, really amazing things for the town, and I'm gonna miss them both up here. So, and the town is gonna miss them, I'm sure. I just wanted to mention the Winter Wonderland that Councilman Latano mentioned. It was absolutely amazing. It was the whole weekend. It was Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 7. I couldn't believe how many amazing local vendors we have. They were just, you know, 1 or 2 person-owned businesses that are very, very local. When I asked the beekeeper, what's the difference between the dark honey and the light honey, he said, Washington Street and Bailey. Like, that's how local this is. It was really wonderful. And the woman who was making jewelry with the sea glass, she had gathered all of the sea glass from Seaside, Ortley, Lavalette, all local beaches. So this was truly, when you say Small Business Saturday, this was just like amazing that we really got the small businesses to a place of focus where they could really benefit. And it was joined by the Jingle Run on Sunday, and the Jingle Run this year was the most successful of any year prior. They said it blew, the attendance blew this year, blew every other year out of the water. It was amazing. And we're not done celebrating the holidays. As I support the arts, Exit 82 is having a production of It's a Wonderful Life on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they're another downtown business, small business that we want to support. And if you celebrate, have a Merry Christmas.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I have is, again, as the mayor brought up, we were able to, I want to thank our business administrator and the union heads for coming to terms with the contract. You know, we would be lost without our valuable employees that do a fantastic job in and out, from the janitorial staff, the police department, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, our department heads that are here every Tuesday night answering questions, weekends and whatnot. We couldn't do it without you, so I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming to terms with you know, the unions and making it very cost-effective for the township, the residents, and fair, you know, for our members and employees. On that note, yes, the Jingle Bell Run, I was glad to see so many people out for that, as well as the menorah lighting and the Christmas tree lighting. You know, the community is coming together. We like to see that. We like to see people at happy times, you know, just seeing neighbors. You know, too often we're busy in life and you don't even talk to your neighbors as you're coming in and out from work or wherever. And it's a good, you know, good time to see neighbors interacting with each other. And on that, all I have is, if you still celebrate, Merry Christmas to all residents, our employees. And at this point, I'll open up the floor to any public comment. Anybody from the, Mr. Anderson? Good evening.
Art Anderson, 12 Park Street. Kevin, I know I talked to you about this last meeting, but I just want to bring up to the council and to the mayor. I don't know if anyone's been downtown, but the water department is making a mess of our streets downtown. So I don't know if there's anything the council can do, or the mayor could do that after they finish. Either we fix it, or we have them put into a kitty or something to help us pave those streets that they're messing up.
Washington, as you know, the utilities, they kind of march to the beat of their own drummer. We've paved a road, they can go in and rip it up, even though we tell them beforehand that, hey, for 5 years, we don't want anything done on the street. If you have any improvements to do, please do it now before we do the improvements. I will tell you that the county is going to be repaving all of Washington Street. That was on their plan, I think this year. They were waiting because Suez had to go all the way out to 37. So I know it's a mess, and the side streets are too. A lot of them are county streets, not township roads, but we're going to prioritize the ones that were ripped up that are township roads, and we'll take care of those. And we're going to push the county to fix the ones that Suez has ripped up. But again, they were replacing a lot of infrastructure. They let us know that. It's been an inconvenience. If you were driving around last Thursday night, I think, I had to make multiple detours just to get to my daughter's house off of Washington Street. So I know it's inconvenient. They've done a lot of work at night so that they don't have to shut down some streets during the day. But if you're out at night driving around when they're doing it, you find yourself, GPS isn't going to help you. You just got to go by the side streets that you know. But yes, Washington Street will be paved, and the township, I think I could speak for the engineer, will be prioritizing those that were disturbed with this utility.
Yeah. At our last meeting, Councilman Lotano and I spoke to a resident that was here and went down Maiden Lane, which is just beyond, atrocious. And we spoke to Mr. Chinkalian about it, and we're working on it. It just doesn't happen overnight. I wish it would, but
Mr. Chinkalian had said something I wasn't aware of. When they do the initial patch, because of compaction of the dirt, sometimes they leave it a little high, and they come back and mill it later. Is that right, Mr. Chinkalian?
Yes, sir.
All right, because some of the patches are a little rough. I couldn't agree with you anymore.
yeah, very rough.
Try and drink a cup of coffee.
And I just want to thank Lori and Terrence for a great job. I mean, this town is so much better with you guys, and it's going to be big shoes to fill. Hopefully, we get somebody in that is even half as good as you guys were. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas, Township Committee of Toms River.
Good evening.
If I have to give my address, it's Laurelwood Avenue, Lakewood.
And your name, sir?
Colin Lewis. Even though I lived at Old Freehold Road for years, of course, served at the Church of Grace and Peace for over 20 years until we lost Pastor Walt. But I knew that we were coming down to our last meetings, and I had to say something about the two of you. So I got a chance to work with a lot of amazing public servants. I worked for the Township of Lakewood as PR director. Walking around one day, coming home, Dick Work said, "You want to be PR director?" I said, "Can I do my videos?" "Do all the videos you want." So I started working there, and I worked with some fine public servants. I was honored to work with George Buckwald. Was there when Bob Singer first came an assemblyman, drove home with him and Eric in the car. And actually, Judy called me today and told me how your dad was the principal and how fine of a man he was, and raved on about, I guess he had the exact same name, Principal Hill, right?
Thank you.
All right. So got a chance to work with some amazing people, but I will tell you, I can't even mention how incredible both you, Lori, and Terrence, you were. The people of Toms River got blessed amazingly by your service. And I had such a wonderful time working on so many endeavors with the both of you. And I'm not going to mention them all. I want to mention the Code Blue effort was amazing, Terrence. I remember you getting upset that it was about 30 degrees. Lisa had opened in Lakewood, and you're like, "I can't take this. We got to do something." And you just took it you changed it for the whole state. All these people now are coming inside in inclement weather and being protected and cared for because your heart of compassion went forward. And that is amazing. So I used to joke around, and first Lori, just amazed at consistently how you would just not only be strong, but with a heart of compassion, levels of inclusion. We work together, of course, with Mitch on Tom's River Unite, but the planning committee for the cultural festival, empowered Mitch, let him do his thing, and then round in, oh, we should include these people. But every time, you kept going on, and I said, I gave her the nickname Superwoman. So I made you this T-shirt, and it has a picture of Superwoman. It's your face with a Wonder Woman in the front. I'm just going to hand this to So my nickname for Mr. Terrence Turnbach was Bruce Wayne, because he loves to fight injustice. He cares for the underdog, and so I asked our buddy Justin Dawes. He's an artist. I said, Justin, do me a favor. Give me a picture of Terrence talking to a kid in the office, and all of a sudden he sees the bat light, and then he jumps into his bat suit, and he's off as Batman. So I want to let you know, Justin drew that for you, but Terrence, that comes from our hearts, just to tell you how much we love you, and how you just amaze us consistently, and how you care for people, no regards of color or anything. I remember people getting on you about, serving the Orthodox community and this group, and you turned to them and you said, I'm a public servant, I'm here to serve everyone. And that was beautiful, and perfectly said. So I just want to tell you, I serve with many township committee people, but you two were inspiring. You are amazing. I'm not going to keep going because I'll lose it. I just needed to stop by and thank you for your service, for the people of Toms River, for Ocean County, and just for also being my friend. It's really blessed my life. And I just have two final things. I knew Maria was going, so I said I had to hurry up. So I want you to give her this. It's a little ornament, a picture of you two, and it says besties on it. All right? All right, so okay, if you can make sure you give her that. And of course, I just wanted to make sure, Mo, I gave you this. It's an ornament with you. You were outstanding as mayor. Every time I turned around, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've been with George and all the rest of them, but you're incredible at getting out there and doing everything you can to encourage people to care about their community. And you served the position of mayor with excellence. So I just want to continue to wish you all the best and say Merry Christmas once again to the Township Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Marianne Wallace, Ortley Beach. I'm here on behalf of the OBVTA, but I'm also here personally to thank Councilmember Turnbach and Councilmember Hurick, and especially Maria Maruca for being an amazing representative of our small community. She has been there every step of the way, especially with the Surf Club, which I'm going to ask you about, Mayor Hill. And we just can't, we are so blessed to have had her these years, and we hope that she gets to enjoy her life now a little bit more and not spend her Saturdays once a month at our meetings. I just think that, this has been a great group, and I hope that the new council is just as halfway as effective as you guys have been. So thank you. So I'm going to break up the Love Fest for a second and ask a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, Mayor Hill, I see that there is a resolution here about the Surf Club. I assume that's about the parking lot?
That was regarding the demolition. The contract that was on there was regarding the demolition. That was under a time constraint. Tomorrow, Bob has done the certification letter. All the debris has been removed. We found 2 pockets where there were, how big were they, Bob? 6 feet by 16, about the size of the dais. And apparently, we found out that in this 92 storm, part of the surf club deck broke off, and they built over top of it. So when we demoed the surf club, we found this debris underneath, which we were able to get removed. We're certifying that with DEP tomorrow. That was their requirement. We're online to close hopefully Thursday, I think, Anthony, for the...
No, Thursday, we're anticipating closing on the sale of the land.
Sale of the land to the county. So that money will be deposited into our open space trust account. And then we've been in touch with Mr. Bathgate, and I think everything's a go for closing before the end of the year.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We had assumed that the change was due to the seashells on the parking lot. That's not it.
No, this was the demo of the surf club. That was part of the agreement. We'd agreed that we would demolish it. And I think, Bob, the original estimate was what, 600,000, and this was under, I think it was around 200,000.
Yeah, when we initially started this asbestos lab, we didn't know, but the contractor did everything he needed to do, but as the mayor said, apparently in the 92 storm, one of the residents, we did actually ground penetrating radar, and we found these hits, we didn't know what it was until we dug it up. One of the residents came up and he remembered it was a 16-foot by 60-foot slab on top of a grading. It was literally taller than like the spectrum, it's as wide as that dais. It sat on that, so that all, I guess, fell off that from the area. The radar picked it up. They had to work all last weekend, just basically jackhammering it up, and then there was 100 tons of concrete we didn't know about. Wow. So,
Well, it looks amazing, and as someone who walks by there all the time, it's just a wonderful improvement, so thank you for that. May I ask a question
Absolutely.
about an ordinance that, the one that Councilmember Roderick asked about the C of O? Is that okay, even though it's on a first reading? Can I ask
Yeah,
a question?
absolutely, sure.
Ms. Chenkalian, I just wonder, have been questions about people who have built, showers or bathrooms or anything on the ground floor. And would this stop people from being able to sell their homes if they were not fully permitted? Or how would that work?
the real purpose of this ordinance is to make the buyer aware. We're not trying to stop anything. If you did work without a permit, and
Mr. Shankalian,
Hang on.
do you think you can go into the mic? Someone was just texting me earlier that no one can hear anything at home.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
When this process goes forth, you as the buyer will know that, there's an open permit, or you'll see the permit and know that, maybe something wasn't done. But the whole purpose is to make you aware as the buyer so that you don't end up buying a house and then a year later get a violation that you didn't know you were going to get. So, I mean, if it's a safety issue, for instance, like we talked about, we are going to check for like the GFI breakers. That's something we do for rental properties. I mean, if somebody did wiring and like a boat lift or a bathroom outlet doesn't have GFI, we're going to bring that. But we've worked with the council on a limited list of safety things. It's not going to be this incredibly invasive process that's going to. We don't want to stop sales. We don't want to hurt anybody, but we also want to protect people. So.
And will this ordinance be published?
Yes, on the website.
No, I think that's it. Again, thank you to the council, particularly the party members. We'll miss you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
My name is Ray Neptune. I live on Village Road, Snug Harbor section. We've been asking since November of 2010 to have something done up at the curve in the road where the bay water comes into the street. Because it makes the water deeper than what comes up through the catch basins that empty, the street into the lagoon. I've got some pictures here that you'll see showing, the initial ones show the last storm, which was pretty bad, and the other ones show the normal rain we get. And the gabions are only about 60% of the way around the bend in the street. Back in 2010, we came down in November. The next day, George Whitman came out, looked at it, I have an email here that he sent to Shakalian and Shivas to recommend that they do a 200-foot bulkhead. Okay, nothing's been done. Bob was out there recently and said the street's going to be raised, but if you're going to raise the street and the water's still going to come in from the bay, we might have more water coming on our property than what we have now. I need to know what you're going to do, you know, how raising the street's going to help. You know, and I mean, for 11 years, come on, you got to do something in 11 years, and there are funds available from the state, you know, to do this.
Yeah. Mr. Gallion.
I met with Ray, I guess it was about 2010. We had a storm that actually collapsed the road. We constructed a new concrete curb, and we put gabions in front. It is important to note, though, that although a bulkhead was desirable, the DEP does not allow bulkheads where they weren't previously allowed. It's a Herculean effort to get that. They're promoting what's called more of a living shoreline. It is true we are looking to elevate the road, as the council may recall. We in this year's local aid grant application, this is the neighborhood that we applied for. We haven't heard back yet, but we did apply for local aid funding this year. Usually it's actually up by now, where as soon as we hear about it, we'll know.
Are we allowed to do a berm?
If we get the grant and we look into the, if we are able to move forward, obviously elevating that area will help. We'll have to come up with some sort of a revetment system, but I can't sit here today and promise you a bulkhead, because it's very likely DEP will not permit that. We have tried, and matter of fact, around that same time, Jefferson Avenue had a washout. Not for Mizzen Road, but we can try, but I can tell you that in other roads where we've had similar issues, the DEP has not allowed it. They're going to look for us to do more of what a slope, a living shoreline, staggered gabions, but more dune type. Again, I didn't write the regulation, please believe me. DEP and I go head to head many times, but this is the requirement that they have. We'll have to come up with some other engineered solution that meets their regulations. Otherwise, we won't get a permit. We can get fined.
Well, if you look at the pictures I submitted tonight.
Oh, they're awful.
The water's coming over past where the gabions stop. Why can't they continue the gabions further to keep that?
I'm not saying we can't do that.
We've spoken about that before. It hasn't been done.
Well, again, I haven't gotten the money yet for the project. We applied for it.
It took you 11 years to get the money?
No, we've done about 7 other road elevation jobs, and
I'm not talking about the elevation. I'm talking about extending the gabions. If you look at that picture and you see that 60% of the gabions covered, only 60% of the area is covered by the gabions. The other 40%, you should continue from there and go back around the curve in the road a little bit. Keep the bay water out. If you keep some of the bay water out, you have to eliminate some of the flooding.
no.
Come on.
No, the
The
bit.
only thing that got bad, if you look at those pictures, is when we got the wave action from the last big storm. When we get the normal rise in the water, it doesn't come through the gabions very much. It's over the curve where the gabions are not.
Right. The purpose of the project 10 years ago was to restore the road that got washed out from the storm. And as of about well, let me finish. The road hasn't washed out since then, correct? Okay. Well, again, that project has stabilized the road, and it's been holding for over 10 years. We're now applying to elevate the road, and obviously when we elevate the road, that will all have to be rebuilt. But it's going to have to be rebuilt in conformance with DEP regulations. It's at the mean high water line. Anything within 500 feet of the water line requires waterfront development and CAFRA permitting, and we're going to have to get a permit from them. So whatever we do is going to have to comply with that. If we have to extend the gabions.
Would a dune be permissible, or?
No. I've yet to see a DEP permit in the last 15, 20 years bulkheading an area that has not been previously bulkheaded.
No, like a dune, like a
Dunes,
berm
they
kind of.
buy a lot. It's a lot of stuff that, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of, but we have to comply with their permitting. It might be a staggered.
Don't they do the bags?
Excuse
Don't they fill bags, and then you can make an artificial
About
dune?
geotubes. Yeah. The problem with those can be if you have a piece of debris, like a piling, hits the bag and shears the geotextile fabric, it all washes out. The gabions are rock inside of a cage. They're a little more durable. But we're going to have to look at all of that. But again, we want to build it strong, but we have to get a permit.
Then I have a question.
Sure.
You come out and you look at it like you did. You see the rocks continue past the gabions going around the bend, but they're low, allowing water to flow over them. Why weren't gabions put on top of those to replace the rocks that had sunk?
My understanding of the boulders that are out there, there was a previous homeowner out there that did some work. Let's just say he did some work, okay? And he moved. I'm not going to say much more, but you know what I'm talking about then. We have to follow the rules. That's all I'm going to say about that.
So you're basically telling me that because the street collapsed, you would only put gabions where the street collapsed. You couldn't go any further to prevent the problem with that.
Well, again, the curb was put back 3 feet down, and we put gabions in front of it to support it. And to my knowledge, we have the asphalt and the road has been holding for 10 years.
It has, but the only other problem we have is since the road was done, okay? I moved there in 2000, so you did the work in 2011 or 2012, whenever you did it. The road never ponded water 4 or 5 feet out from the curb the way it does now. So obviously, either the curb was put in too low, the road was not pitched right, or something. I mentioned this to you before. And I told you, you can stand up at my house and you can watch the curb go down like this and go up. The last time we were up here, I asked you about it. You said, well, I had it surveyed. I said, is there any chance the surveyor made a mistake? That time it got sort of swept under the carpet. And
What mistake are you referring to?
well, it looks like the curb is lower than what it should be. It looks like it's about that much lower. You can just watch it pitch downhill from my house.
And the reason that area floods, it's about a foot to a foot and a half above sea level. That's why we're coming in for a road elevation. If it's settled over 10 years, maybe we have a puddle or something, But again, if we're going to reconstruct it, we're going to reconstruct it. But like I said, that road has held for 10 years. The bad storm took it out. We fixed it. It's held for 10 years. We're looking to do more.
When
We're
is
gonna try to elevate it.
elevation, the road elevation scheduled?
Again, the council, we applied for a grant for local aid like we do every year. We just haven't heard back from DOT. It should be very
How
soon.
many do we have around town?
Road elevation projects?
Yeah, well, you and I had spoken about this the evening of the flooding.
Yeah.
We were on the
Yes.
phone, right? And you had said there were a number of areas that you had marked or
Yes.
on your radar.
Yeah.
How many are on the radar?
I have a map of every road that's no more than 2 feet above sea level. We've probably bitten into 40% of them so far. There's still a lot to do. I don't have the map with me, but I could.
What does each project cost roughly?
Depends on the
Average,
size. On
ballpark.
average, we've been spending about $1.5 million to $2 million. We've been getting about $500,000. It's been going up each year from local aid.
So if we were to use all of this new money that municipalities are getting to do road raises, how would that help? How many could we get done?
It would, well, if it's about 10 million, the equivalent of 5 projects, I'd have to speak to the administrator and the mayor, obviously, how we want to spend that funding. But to put it in perspective, it's probably about 5 projects worth of money.
There's mitigation funding that's available from the state.
NJDOT local aid.
Can you get mitigation funding from the state to do this?
That's what this is. It's to mitigate problems.
That's what I asked.
Well, they call it local aid, but it's to remedy, it's to mitigate problems. Yeah, whether it's traffic, flooding, whatever. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shankellen.
Any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am. Hi, good evening. State your name and address for the record, please.
Julia Watson. I live at 1924 Nissen, been there for 22 years, and I am sinking, literally sinking. I called you, Mr. Mayor, the last storm, right? I had to hike up my pants and walk home. Thank God I did, because I was in for 3 solid days. We could not get out of our road. Now, I understand that's a special storm, but this happens all the time. I have pictures. 2018, 2019, this is the front of my house. All right? And I have a lot more that are on the cloud somewhere, and I'll figure out for you.
No problem.
And in the meantime, when you talk about having redone the road 10 years ago, did anybody look at it locally recently? It's collapsing. It keeps going down every storm that we have. This is serious stuff, I gotta tell you. And I'd like to know if we're on the list. Are we on the list for this year, next year? When is it? I'm losing property value every minute.
I think I just answered, but we've already applied for a grant this
Right.
year. We haven't heard back yet to elevate that area. So yes,
So this area will be taken care of?
if, and I don't want to speak for the
Because I've
town.
heard that a lot of other ones are taken care of. Hampshire has been taken care of. Somewhere on the, what do we own? Tom's River on the,
Let me quick background.
and I was told we were
We started
not
about 6
there.
years ago with road elevation projects. They've been tremendously successful. The residents like them. DOT has been giving the township more and more money each year towards them.
Right.
Your neighborhood was applied for this year. We just haven't heard back from the DOT.
Okay.
Typically what happens is, I've already put it in my budget request, which council has even begun to deliberate over next year for 2022, but when we get word from the DOT with that money and the council, you know, if, I know I'm presumptuous, but history repeats itself and they put more funding towards another project next year, you know, very likely sometime next year we'll start designing a project for you. But I can't answer behalf of the DOT or speculate what the council's gonna do until they know that the DOT's putting up some funding as well.
I understand that, but you also have to understand that we have people on a street paying their taxes, doing everything that we should. We cannot get into our houses. And if you tell me the answer is to raise my house, it's not the answer. I can't get to my house.
I agree.
So when do we, I had 10 days this year, I couldn't get to my house around.
I believe you understand, we've been approaching these streets as a lowest goes first.
Well, maybe we're the lowest, but I gotta tell you, I think it's time to
You're
change.
not, actually. Hampshire, Bay Breeze, Sea Breeze Creek Road, those roads were 6 inches above sea level. You're about 1.5
Oh,
feet. This is a,
lucky
this,
me.
I know. This is a tide gauge data from the Route 37
Right.
bridge going back to, we've been trying to get roads to elevation too. This is that weekend you were talking about, that
Yeah.
weekend in,
I knew that was
October.
gonna be held.
That went up to elevation
Okay,
3.
I understand that.
But generally, when we get the roads up to elevation 2, which some of those roads were down here, you're gonna see it a couple inches here or there, but generally, you'll be fine. When a big storm comes, all bets are up. Sandy
Yeah.
comes in or 92
We
storm, but
understand that.
generally, when we can get these roads up to 2, we get the crown of the road, at the center up to 2.5, you can get out and be dry. But again, we're very proud of these projects. They're working very well, but they're big, and we pick off a couple of roads each year because of the cost.
Right, I understand. I think we would be happy if we had a promise that we are on this list and we
Definitely
are
on the
going to
list,
be done.
and we've definitely been applied for. The council passed a resolution in July, I believe, when we applied for this, and it's public record, absolutely.
In the meantime, is there something like a boardwalk that you could do so that people like me can walk out and not go crazy sitting there watching the water in my street for 3 days? The only
Boardwalk's not
people,
gonna stop.
in fact,
Oh, you mean
Ray
took the walk
Indian
out.
has a big pickup truck. Even he couldn't get through.
I agree with you. It definitely floods. We definitely want to solve that problem. It's just finding
But
the
is there a
first step.
boardwalk that you can do around it and that gives us an exit? It's scary. It's
Well-
really scary. You reach my age, I don't need another heart attack. Okay?
I generally.
Very
we can do-
scary to be sitting there for 3 solid days. You understand that? 3 solid days you cannot even walk out of your driveway, right?
Mhm.
You couldn't even swim it.
The projects that we've been putting forth are for vehicles, for roads, emergency.
I know. But maybe we should give that to people too.
We
No
can
one
talk
ever
about that.
requests.
I'd have to look, unfortunately, you have
And
private
my
property
age,
on the other
it's
side.
not easy, and I'm not
Let
going
me
to
ask
call
you-
the
let me
cops
ask
to
you-
get
Let
out.
me ask you, where would it end here? When this person's house here, where would it stop?
Probably right here, because you can, if we could get here, then you can walk through people's yards, right?
What if this road was a foot higher? Like it is
I
over there?
would hope we were. An engineer, I'm not. I have no idea. It's only my,
That's the main goal, is we can try to get roads above this red line. If we can get it above that height.
Mr. Shankillian, when we were on the phone, you had said something about mean sea level.
Yeah.
over a 30, 40-year period that you, how much has it changed?
Well, I apologize for the scale of this, but the U.S. Geodetic Survey put a tide gauge on the Route 37 bridge, and it's been reporting data since January of 19. Matter of fact, you can get this on our website on the internet tab. And this plots the height of the water. And you can see that this is zero. This is mean sea level in 1988, excuse me. High tide, the new, pretty much one. So some of those roads were only 6 inches above. They were routinely flooding. We've been shooting as a minimum to get the gutter at 2 of the road, and then the crown, which is the one that was higher, that's 6 inches higher. And generally, when we do that.
So since 1988, how much has it changed?
Well, again, I only have data back to January of 19, but I can tell you that it's almost always above what was mean sea level in 1988. So if I had to average it out just real quick looking at it, mean sea level here seems to be about 6 inches above what it was in 1988.
In just a few decades.
This is only since 19. This is only at two years.
Scary. All right, thank you.
And this was that weekend, about a month and a half ago, where we had those 2 peaks where it hit elevation 3. So even a road we elevated, but if you think about a road we elevated, the crown of the road, the water would be 6 inches deep, even though I think a low-riding car could have gotten safely down the middle of the road. But in the case of, like, say Bay Breeze and Sea Breeze, we picked that road up 2 feet. That road used to be at sea level. Those people were used to walking through knee-deep water constantly, and now they don't have to. So the projects do work. This kind of shows it.
Okay. Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Richard Kratchik. I live at 1952 Pinta Court, and I basically want to support the request for help on Mizzen Road. I brought some photographs that show Mizzen flooding from the recent storm. Also, we have a winter storm. I think the winter storm was either 2020 or 2019. I'm not really certain. And then I have one back to 2018. So basically, it's a recurring problem in that neighborhood. And my concern is the access, getting to Pinta Court when Mizzen is flooded. You can't drive it. People that do drive it get their car stuck. People that do drive it sometimes will push water up on the property. So remediation of the road elevation is a request, Mr. Chakelian. We do need it. The other thing I want to sort of put into the mix, right? Julie mentioned the idea of perhaps a boardwalk, and as instead of a sidewalk, some kind of a boardwalk that might be elevated enough to be able to walk to the homes. I can't say whether that's a good solution or a bad solution or a temporary solution, but I think when you look at Mizzen and when we look at that corner, it really needs a comprehensive engineering, because what's happening on that corner, and I think I've talked to you about it, Mr. Chakelian, is the township owns some amount of the corner, and I don't know whether it's the county or the state that joins us around that corner. We're right up against, I think it's Ocean County Park, and frankly, I think the county has been negligent about maintaining that park. There's so much erosion of the land into the marsh just off of Mizzen Road that will eventually threaten Mizzen's infrastructure, probably all the way up to Seaman Court. I've only lived in that neighborhood since probably about 2005, but I understand when those homes were built back in the 70s, there was a beach buffer. The park had sand. I don't know what's legally possible. I know you've got the rocks there in the cages right now, but it seems to me that we're able to find money and permits to put dunes and seagrass up on the ocean beaches, but Silver Bay on that southwest corner takes a big hit from every northeastern storm. And the bay just continues to chew at that corner. And why we're not preserving that coastline as a state or as a county makes no sense to me. The park comes in every year, and they have to redredge their little channel for their tour boat. all of the material that used to be that little beach is basically 6 inches of shallow bay water that you can walk out hundreds of yards into Barnegat Bay. If we can't put bulkheads there, maybe we should talk about dunes. I don't know what's possible, but what I'm saying is I'd like to see the township think about an engineering plan and maybe to talk to the county if it's, if it's got to be some kind of joint agreement between the township and the county, because it is a problematic corner. And there's a lot of infrastructure there, there is exposure, and there's a lot of property value. And right now, my concern again is the access. You can't, homeowners, police access, the police cruisers can't drive through it. Probably could drive an emergency vehicle in because they're higher, right? But sometimes the water gets pretty deep. So I just brought a couple of photos over to kind of support the story, and I'm hoping the township can make some moves.
The dune is an option. To be honest with you, I'd like to find a more, what we call, ardent solution. Dunes are good on the ocean, but they, as we know from the Army Corps, they have to keep coming down. For something like this, where people, you need to get to your house, I'd like to see something a little stronger, a little ardent. Whatever the DEP is going to allow, we're going to push that to the limit. But I have to get there first. Whether it's maybe it's a deep bell curve. We may build a. They're going to pull a bulkhead, I may pull a seawall. Maybe a very strong curve.
Well, you're going to need to raise the street anyway.
I know,
Because
and that's going to cause.
because fluid finds its elevation.
But again, to dump some sand out there, I would imagine that's going to be ongoing and constant. I agree with you, that's the worst exposure you have. It faces northeast, right? It's just anytime we get northeast, it's blowing, eroding all that. I'd like to see something a little stronger in the context that I can get a permit for it. But once we get an engineer on board and we know we have money, we're definitely, that's going to be the hot spot to look at. Whether we build a boardwalk or just elevate that area higher. So, if you don't need a boardwalk because the road will be higher, I will be impacted, but we're going to come up with a solution.
Well, when the township starts to work that area, I hope you'll notify the neighborhoods as to, the engineering options.
Yeah,
So that,
as a matter of fact, if you go to the township website under engineering, there's actually some of the previous presentations for road elevation. We actually, when we move forward, we'll get a survey of the area, we'll come up with some solutions, and we actually present it. We have a big neighborhood meeting where everybody that's affected by it gets to come and see it. What generally happens is the higher we raise, the more goes on your property, and that's where sometimes we get a little pushback from residents. So it's a balance. If I pick up the road, I have to transition your driveway. Your driveway, you have to bury the first step to your porch. And some people, so it's a little bit of a give and take. We do it at our cost. All we ask is temporary right of entry on the property. But some people, want to see that first, and it kind of goes around and around. But we've done a lot of them successfully. I think this is our 6th year, probably 10th road affecting, 300-400 homes on Washington Street, Bay Creek, Seabreeze Creek, Pumpshire, 6th Terrace, where we just started Harbor Court now. And the list goes on and on. I hear great things, and people are excited. They buy cars again. They used to lease them because they rust out.
Well,
We get a lot of.
Well, let me just make a case for prioritization, because one of the challenges with that corner is there's a lagoon about 100 feet away from the bay. And if the bay ever joins the lagoon, you broke that road. And then you've got no access at all, right? You've cut off however many homes. So you have really a narrow strip of land there that if it ever fails. So I think it's a little bit perhaps different from roads in Green Island that are perhaps low elevation. They just need to be picked up. That section's a bridge. And if it breaks, then you've got a problem with it.
Right. But I just want to be clear, we agree with you. We know it floods. The council supported you. They've already applied for the funding. I've already put it in the budget request. It just has to go through the process. We have to get the money, we have to get the permits, and then we're going to have to get permission from every adjoining homeowner to access their property to do it. That's actually one of the things in the process that takes the most amount of time. I routinely have to send 3 sets of letters out to the North Jersey address and the local address just to get everybody, because I can't bring a contractor out there if he can't do the job. So I usually spend about 6 months just tracking
Let me just ask you one more question, Bob, and that is, so you said something earlier about the DEP and bulkheads that don't, that hadn't prior existed, right? There must be an exception process, and I'm kind of wondering, or an appeal process. So if the town is going to the DEP, perhaps asking permission to put a bulkhead in there, and if the DEP is reluctant, is there a mechanism where you can get citizens of the town to sort of weigh in on a petition to give you some backing, so that when you're going after a process, you've got,
The DEP, what happens is when you get a DEP permit, it's published in the register, there's a public comment period. Most people object, usually it's development, but that's an interesting point. Usually it doesn't get the comment period unless it agrees with the conditions, but if we were, that's something we could do, a letter writing campaign to the reviewer when the time comes. If we hit a blockade, maybe we can come up with another solution.
I'm just thinking about mechanisms. Yeah, right. There's almost always an escalation path, and if the town's meeting resistance, trying to get real work done, maybe the residents, the folks that are stakeholders in the area might be able to find the town and help you get some attention. But I just put that thought out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure, you can, the clerk. You can, yeah, that's fine. She's the keeper of records.
There you go.
Okay, does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Michael Valdeterra, 36 West Rutherford Lane in Lavalette. The address is Lavalette.
Can you spell your last name?
Valdetara.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm so envious of everybody that comes up here without notes and just goes off the cuff. It must be a millennial thing. But November 4th was the first time me and my family learned of our house being substantially damaged. November 9th, we came here for the first town hall meeting where this issue was brought up. A bunch of residents and families spoke to the issues with the process they had been subjected to, the substantial determinations, how they were affected in different ways. The takeaways from that meeting on November 9th, this was more of my synthesis, so please jump in if you thought it was different, but I think even like Councilman Latano, you kind of relayed it a little bit in your email. I think it was more or less similar. The council and the engineering team was to reach out to Congressman Andy Kim for assistance on the matter and potentially bring him to a town hall meeting. Engineering and the council were to follow up with FEMA regarding the appeals process and legally see if it could be extended to accommodate some of these 700 homes and their request to be able to prove no substantial damage. The engineering and council, with Mayor Hill's help, was going to explore if they could delay enforcement restrictions penalties until the new flood maps were drawn by FEMA. And then the engineering department was to explore bringing a FEMA rep to the town hall meeting. Then I know, obviously on November 15th, Mayor Hill sent the letter to FEMA. November 23rd at the meeting, there was not much of an update offered besides it was a priority. It was still on the top of your guys' minds, which I appreciated. And then coming in today, didn't see it on the agenda. When I call the town hall, I try to speak to the right people. I get pushback, I get hung up on, I don't get clear answers. And then I come to like a forum like this, and I kind of thought this would be the place where, okay, like somebody's gonna say something, we're gonna get an update based on the conversations I had with FEMA last week. It seems like you guys met, but didn't hear anything there. And so I just wanted, I don't know if you're gonna give an update.
We do. Mr. Chinkalian, it should be his meeting. Go ahead.
I apologize. I'm just tired of hearing me tonight.
That's okay.
Yes, we've actually made a lot of progress. The mayor drafted that letter. That caused a meeting with Congressman Kim's office to get involved. That caused a meeting with myself and representatives of FEMA and the state of New Jersey on just Friday. Based on that meeting, FEMA walked back their position a little bit on, they were clear that the deadline is for applying for ICC, and they were clear that the deadline applies for a new home. As much as sometimes I'm holding the line with residents on the regulations, on Friday, I was pushing back against FEMA, and I said, show me where it says in the regulations this deadline applies to somebody who didn't have insurance or isn't looking for money. They couldn't produce it. So I started to get a little traction there. However, so where it was FEMA, quite frankly, backed down on that a little bit. The state, however, started to, push back on me. So today, I updated the mayor. The mayor issued a new letter today. I'm sorry, let me take a step back. FEMA and the representatives of DEP Bureau of Flood Engineering deferred the question to the state NFIP coordinator's office and DCA. So the mayor authored a letter today to the director of DCA and the NFIP coordinator's office asking for, guidance from them. Show us a regulation that says this deadline applies. We did put in the letter that, we want to make sure, if we push back on this, it doesn't jeopardize the flood insurance, it doesn't jeopardize the community rating system for the discount, but we're kind of forcing them to either give us the extension, but in the same time, show us where that they can enforce this. Now, the problem is the township does have an ordinance, and it does have a requirement, and the answer I got back was, well, Bob, when are you going to do this? It's been 10 years. And I said, well, that's fine, but you have to show us something that causes us to do this. And the mayor's arguments about the maps not being done and COVID pricing are very good arguments for at least an extension, if not, an answer as to when this will come forth. Maybe it just sits there until somebody wants to build something. I don't know, but I want to see it in black and white. If we're going to hold somebody to this, they have a right to ask for the regulation and statute of a time frame, and they haven't been able to produce it yet. So it's. I wish I had a better answer for you, but we are advocating with them. We're trying to get to who is making us do this. All year, the FEMA came down and they called it a community assistance contact. And Bob, this is the deadline, and I have the emails where they asked me to do it. The letter that you all received, they approved it. They told me to send it. But then when I pushed back and I said, show me the deadline in black and white, they pointed to another office. So I am actively trying to get this. The mayor's full support. He's written 2 letters. Whoever they blame, we're going after. But that's what I have as of Friday at 11 o'clock.
Mr. Giankelly, can I ask a question for you and Mr. Merlino? Have we explored opening back up the appeals process?
That's in the letter, the mayor's letter today, which I think is going to be going on the website if it's not already tomorrow. We've asked for, until you guys work this out, open up the rental COs. If they do that, we will reopen an appeal process. We're all for that, but as I think Anthony mentioned, until they tell us we're not actually in a state of violation already, we got to get past that hurdle. So.
All right?
Yeah. Just reopening at this juncture, without that clarification, reopening the appeals process may not solve the problem, because our initial understanding was that people had to be in compliance by October 29th. So I don't know if FEMA would respect the fact that people are now going back to appeal the substantial damage determination. So we do have a number of policy tools at our disposal to take, but until we get clarification, because I have not found in these pages where that date is. I understand where it's coming from ICC. That's clear to me. But where that date, compliance date, applies globally, where the authority is for that, I haven't found it.
And ironically, the state is looking for the council to adopt their new model ordinance, which I've told them, I've said, I don't believe, and not to speak on your behalf, I'm not sure there's a political will to strengthen this regulation when they can't even answer this question. So we're kind of using that. At the same time, though, I have to be careful, though, because if they say, Bob, you're out, I got to be careful about that. Will they take us out of the program? I can't imagine it, but that 15% discount, that $3 million, which, by the way, we're eligible for another 5% or another $1 million a year, which they're holding right now. It's kind of a give and take. But again, I need to see the regulation and bring it to Anthony's attention. And so far, there's been a lot of this going on. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Frustrating.
It's difficult for the resident to not know where they stand, and
It's difficult for them. It's equally difficult for us, who are sort of charged with enforcing this at the local level, but there's no accountability when the people are actually imposing these dictates.
Yeah. Congressman Kim's office, he got on board. He asked, and like I said, FEMA, well, I thank him, because I think the meeting only took place because he helped us get the meeting. They gave us 1 hour, and then they kind of backed away from it, but blamed the state.
I do have a question for Mr. Merlino. I did email you.
Yeah, and I did not forget your question, but I knew this topic was going to come up tonight.
I've checked around. I'm not going to name names, but I've checked around with 6 different municipalities. And we're the only folks who sent a letter out telling people that if they, applied for a CO or a building permit, that they wouldn't be granted that. And it's just
I can answer that.
difficult for me to understand why we did that, and I'd like to know why no one else has.
I can answer that. I actually asked that question because, obviously this isn't fun for me either. The answer I got was all the damage that Toms River had, we were the epicenter of Sandy. They focused on us, and that's why last year the mayor got that letter. They were requiring a community assistance contact. In that letter, they threatened to take away the discount. And the other towns, because I've been in contact with them as well.
So
they
FEMA told you to send out the letter?
Oh, absolutely. And those other towns haven't had their community assistance contact yet. This may be coming their way. Unfortunately, I think we're on point.
Brick was...
I spoke to Alyssa 5 times, the town engineer there.
No, I didn't. I wasn't saying that I spoke to Brick. I was just saying that Brick was hit massively.
Yes. But they have, I spoke to Alyssa yesterday, actually, they haven't had...
Because you had said that we were the only ones,
Yeah.
as well. So,
Well,
but I didn't actually speak to anybody in Brick, but...
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I was wondering why we're, I have the letter. They threatened the mayor with this penalty. But like I said, Brick, we were up last year for a CRS increase. And it was very frustrating for me because I got a letter saying, good job, you got the points, you're going to get another discount. And 2 days later, I got a letter from FEMA, the mayor did, saying, oh no, we're holding your discount and we're going to require this of you. So all through 2021, and I have the emails, they have been meeting with us and kind of, putting the screws to us about compliance. And they required the letter, they recommended it, we drafted it, we sent it to them, they approved it, they told us to send it. And then all of a sudden, now...
You know how you said we were the epicenter? And I know there are 700 houses, but relative to the size of Toms River, we have 40,000 households. And certain other municipalities, they have the same percentage, even though they're little municipalities.
We're down to 700. We had 3,800 to start.
Well, currently.
Yeah.
Currently, right now. There are small municipalities with 1,000 households, and they got 50, 60. So it seems like the numbers are in line with ours. So I'm really lost as to. So you're saying, thank you for clarifying. So
Yeah,
FEMA told you to send that letter?
Yes. And the epicenter, that came from them, not me. I live in Brick myself. Believe me, I saw it all. But that's what they told me. All I can do is repeat what they said and try to drill down to the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? I'm sorry, you were drunk. Go ahead. My apologies.
My question there is, I feel like there's a lot of posturing in sense of how dealing with the entire scope of the 700 homes, but then it's still not clear to me on the appeals process and what's actually stopping that from being open in just plain English. Like, what's stopping this from having a motion? Is it FEMA we're afraid of FEMA saying, okay, like people who rightfully had a right to appeal, like are appealing and their houses weren't damaged? Like, I don't see a world where, based on the conversations I've had with the people at FEMA, that they're worried about that. Everything I keep hearing is it's a town issue, it's a town issue, it's a town issue.
No, that's another example of them throwing it on somebody else and not taking responsibility for it. The issue is that if it is true that all of these 750 homes had to be in compliance, that means completely elevated by October 29, 2001, reopening an appeal process is not going to solve the problem because FEMA is going to come back and say, so what? People are appealing. They were supposed to be in compliance. We're still taking away your discount. Or we're still taking you out of the National Flood Insurance Program, or taking individual properties out of the National Flood Insurance Program, in which case our action to hold appeals, one, doesn't solve everybody else's problem, and two, affects 9,000 other people who have flood insurance. So what we have to do is get clarification on that date. The strongest argument we have, the strongest position we have, and the one I think everybody up here would support is we were told that those maps now are not going to be finalized until 2025. So that is 4 years from now. So I don't know how it is possible, by any standard, that you can tell people to do something based on a phantom standard, because we have a phantom standard right now. We don't know what the elevation has to be.
Is there any chance that there'll be some sort of lawsuit that'll change this?
Well, there was one in New York
New
that
York.
challenged the maps, so we know that the maps are in question. I don't think a lawsuit a lawsuit challenging the maps wouldn't be right because they're not finalized yet, but,
Challenging the mandate without the map.
well, I mean, I think, it'd be very difficult, very expensive, and very lengthy to sue the federal government over this, and it probably, again, wouldn't solve the problem because you'd have to get some sort of preliminary relief in the form of an injunction, which you likely would not get from federal court. If any litigation were to ensue, it'd probably be after the fact. If they said we weren't doing our job and they decided to challenge us, then that would be, at that point, to draw the line in the sand. But at this point right now, we have to get clarification, if we can, on the significance of this date, because I have not found in these regulations, and I've read through them painstakingly, where that date applies generally. It's clear that for people who took ICC money, it's part of their requirement that they had to use that to be in compliance by a certain date or to file their claim. For people who haven't been part of that program, I'm just at a loss to figure out where that comes from.
And then, because I don't know how these things work, like with the scope of,
Apparently, neither do we, but.
what does like the timeline for something like that look like? We have people people reaching out.
Well,
to me,
look,
"Hey,
I
I'm
mean,
losing sleep. I'm trying to get a lawyer.
nobody's doing
I'm trying to
anything
sell a house."
before the end of the year. I will tell you that we were going to follow up on this now, the second level of review that we're looking for. If the council is going to make a policy change, timing-wise, the earliest it could come is in January, because we're running out of time this year, and nothing introduced on the 28th carries over into the next legislative session. So if whatever policy decision council decides to make to address this situation, it would have to come in January.
But more to get the answer to your question as well. From
Well, that's going to depend on how, do you know how responsive they are? Okay.
So we have time to figure this out before we, even if we're not doing it. The deadline isn't until May, so we have a lot of time to play around before they exert more pressure on us and say we're not in compliance, we're not adopting the ordinance. So that's good news. But we really have to hear back. So the mayor emailed the letter literally today based on the email we needed from Friday. But I think the best course of action for everyone is, the mayor's letters have been put on the first page of the website. As soon as, we have information, that's where we put it. My office is getting inundated with calls. I try to respond. I get the same question over and over again. Sometimes I just don't have an answer. I may not have an answer you like, or I may not have an answer at all. Until we have clear direction from the state and the federal government, that's kind of where we're at. I can't tell you when they're going to give me an answer.
I think what would help is like, okay, if you came here in 2 weeks, you gave an update, then people would know, okay, I'd expect an update here. Like, I know when I see the letter addressed to the wrong person at FEMA, and I have to call that out, like, that doesn't give me exactly security.
It's-
Where I'm like,
The wrong person. He is the chief. He is on leave, but the acting chief did respond.
okay. Did you know he was on leave?
I learned that Friday.
That's just, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, in the front row.
Yes.
Just state your name and address for the
Mike
record.
Scuderi, 6 Terrace. I just heard that we have till May 1st. You guys, the whole Barrier Island is based on tourism. If we're gonna wait till May 1st to come up with what you're gonna vote on with ordinances and things from the federal government that is 5 years out, what's that doing to the tourism and to the people who are property owners that are looking for the tourists to come in? When do we, get them to sign up with us? We wait till June, July, May 1st?
Mr. Chincallion can address that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you would, okay, sir, would you speak into the mic?
There's time to go.
Sir, speaking to the mic, because I guess we're getting, need to speak into the mic so people at home can hear you,
Same thing
as well as you,
with
Mr. Chincallion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I may have misspoke. The deadline for the township to adopt the ordinance isn't until May. We are actively pursuing, the mayor's letter specifically says it, I think it's a self-serving letter, and with all due respect, to say, unless we basically hear from you, we are going to issue rental COs. So we're kind of putting them on notice, saying, we're shifting the burden, saying, either you show us the regulation or we're moving forward.
Dealing with FEMA, I will tell you, I was at a meeting with Ben Giovanni, and we heard something totally different. They told us that the only people that could do substantially damaged letters to houses were FEMA.
Yeah.
And in the workbook that FEMA sent to Bob, you had to appoint a
Floodplain coordinator.
floodplain coordinator who made the determination based on their figures. So I looked at Ben Giovanni and I go, we're getting misinformation from the source. My attitude, and I've directed Bob, his department issues rental COs, is to continue to issue rental COs until we have a map. And if the map's not coming until 2025, we're going to continue to issue rental COs. Now, having said that, the problem I do have is if you want to add another room to your house, and we're not sure where this map is, I think it's wise to hold off until you get a map. Because you may build a room that's either too low or too high. So we're going to wait as far as construction, new construction, adding on to a house. I think, those are going to be held in abeyance. But if you want to rent your house, if you've rebuilt your house, you want to rent your house until we get maps, which look like it's 2025, I'm telling the department to issue rental COs. If the house passes the rental CO, you can rent the house. Now, if FEMA wants to come and throw me in jail, throw me in jail. But they don't have maps. So what are you going to build to, a fictitious map? I told you last time, I had a property I had to sell. The house, I got nothing for the house, zero. I sold for a bulkheaded lot. I sold the land. Now, if I'd have waited till 2025, would the house have been in compliance? It might have been. It was only a foot below the floodplain. So, it is what it is. But what we're doing, and I will state that here, we're going to continue, I told Bob, continue to issue rental COs until we get maps. If we don't have maps, then FEMA can fly a kite as far as I'm concerned, because they can't, what are they going to hold us to? What standard? There is no standard right now.
So are you guys going to issue us?
Yes.
You guys are going to
Issue, are you talking about rental COs?
a letter to say that we can continue on the way we're doing.
You call and get,
Until
until there's a map, which looks like it's 2025, we're going to continue to issue rental COs. You have to get the inspection, you have to pay the fee, all right? That's it.
Mayor, would the same apply?
That we sent out, or we have to just?
No, it's the same process like you've always done. We're not changing anything. You need a rental CO?
I'm wondering if there's something that's, because we received this letter, which I received after the meeting, but I was here for the meeting because I got that
All
on,
right,
the website.
okay. My direction to the department head is continue to issue rental COs.
Mayor? I have one question. Would the same apply, I know you were just saying about adding on rooms. What about
adding on
permit? What about a permit for, let's say, changing your furnace or your air conditioner? Because originally, no permits were going to be granted, right? So can we?
No, the UC, New Jersey Uniform Construction Code limits the construction official issuing a building permit based on the state building code. We can, as we said, override a non-building permit, like a rental CO, but the construction.
Right, but don't we then encourage people to do work without an inspection?
It absolutely does, and we made that argument to FEMA. They view it as a compliance tool, but as you absolutely correct, it in some cases force people to do work without permits. And then, as we know after Sandy, Governor Christie relaxed the standards. There's a lot of work you can do without a permit now. I think you can change your hot water heater, your
roof,
siding, your
right?
roof. You don't even need a permit. So it's a mess. I don't know how else to say it. We got to figure out who's in charge.
The maintenance issue, that should be able to apply, but to add rooms, understood.
We were, I don't want to say screaming at each other on Friday, but it was that bad,
This is, I will tell you, I spoke.
They're asking you to apply rules that they don't even know what the
Well,
rules are. So where are we going?
I'm afraid I'm almost afraid if we brought him here, I think you guys would.
Invested in this, and you guys are putting our feet to the fire.
I know.
You don't even know what the hell we're supposed to.
No, but then there's, then there's.
Your
then there's no
analysis is exactly correct, okay? Because when you talk to FEMA, you get one story from one person, one story from another person. As we know, they change jobs. What we can control, we can control. We can control rental COs. And as I said, I see the validity behind, well, I want to add another bedroom onto my house, and it was damaged in Sandy. I could say, okay, you're not going to get a permit to do that. You're going to have to live with the structure that you rebuilt. If you want to rent it, you can rent it, get the rental CO. But, again, it's a protection for the homeowner, because if you build this addition and it turns out when the maps come in that you have to elevate it, then you've incurred more costs. So I think the smart thing to do is we're going to continue with the rental COs, because I have zero problem with that. And I'll take the heat on that if they want to call somebody. But you have no maps. So what are you telling people to build to? Fictitious, a fictitious map that you did. When was the last map? 5 years ago? 7 years ago?
Well, which one? We had the
Yeah,
advisory map, the
there's-
two working maps, the
And
preliminary.
New York's already sued them. They're not in compliance. They're under a court order to do the maps, and they keep kicking the can down the road. So if they're going to kick the can down the road, I'm going to allow you to rent your property. As long as you fixed it up and you passed the rental CO, you can rent. And just, that's it. Now, the building, to add on to a house, yes, that's a whole different ballgame. And I think, as Bob said, some of these things, the mechanical things, you can change because the governor gave you, had relaxed if you're going to replace something mechanical in the house, you may be able to, whatever they've relaxed it on, I don't know.
Yeah, it was roofing, siding, windows, I think hot water heaters, and some low-grade electric work, I believe.
Yeah.
There's issues with that
So
as
you'll-
well, having certain people
so you'll-
doing that work without permits.
So basically, you should be able to keep the house habitable so that you can live in it. You've got heat, that type of stuff. So again, we're not changing the rental COs. We're going to continue doing business as normal. And my attitude is, there's no maps, there's no standard. You fixed your house up, which the governor allowed. You could fix your house so you could move back in, and we're going to wait for the maps. Now, when the maps come out and they're finally decided on by everybody, that's when what'll hit the fan. Because if the maps come down 2 feet, then anybody that has to elevate once it's come down, then maybe out of 700 homes, it may drop to 150 homes. Who knows? We don't know. But, as I said, what we can control here are rental COs, and they're going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Yes, sir.
Todd Garris, 1932 Pinta Court. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. I couldn't be more prouder than this council. First of all, for the people that are leaving, thank you very much for your service. It's invaluable. I could never do something like that. A few points I want to bring out. First thing is the flooding on Mizzen. There's 2 other streets that are involved in that. So I just don't want you guys to think that it's only Mizzen. It's also Pinta Court as well as Ship Court. We're also can't get to our houses. And, my wife's a paramedic. She comes home sometimes 11 o'clock at night. And the last couple storms, she's walking through in waist-high water. It was terrible. I know it's very complicated regarding the flood insurance, but just as someone who has flood insurance, I'd be more than happy to give up that 15% for the people that are having problems with elevation. Because I know that 15% savings, and I think there's another potential 5%. It wouldn't be important for me if that was taken away from us. Everybody understand what I'm saying there? Okay. The substantially damaged appeal, I think, is imperative. I don't think that is something that can last 4 years or 5 years until the new maps come out. Because you have the homeowners that are under this amazing amount of stress. You have 750 families that can't sell their houses are devalued, and if the appeals process is brought in, some of the people that did the repairs themselves, they'll be taken off because they'll be able to prove that they shouldn't be on that list. And now their homes aren't going to be devalued so much. So I think that it's imperative that this appeals process be brought about so people can fight for and it might not even be a fight. It could be just easy decisions. The CO ordinance, I think it's something that, quite frankly, I think it should have been something we've had for years. Most of you know my situation. I know the town engineer brought it up by saying 2 weeks ago someone was a victim of this, and that's me. We bought a home. It turns out it was substantially damaged. The prior homeowner did not disclose it. We had letters from the town, a letter stating that the home was not substantially damaged, and the homeowner did a switch and bait, and they got that letter, and then after they got that letter, they handed in a higher insurance claim, and then the township, rightfully so, rescinded that letter. Do you think the people who sold us the house brought that letter up? Absolutely not. Scumbags. With that saying, if that CO would have been there, as the town engineer mentions, we are the people that would have been saved. I wouldn't be standing here right now. And I'm being told potentially I have to raise my house. I mean, that's just absurd. So, you know, if anything, when I say I'm proud of you guys, I mean, really, you are taking the fight to the feds for us. And if there's anything you do on this council that's going to be, you know, part of some of the successes that you've had, it's to save our homes. So thank you all in advance for fighting for us. It is so appreciated. Mayor, Bob, well appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to be heard? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to close public comment.
Motion to close public comment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we need a motion to go into closed session, executive session.
Motion to go into executive session?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I know you have a tiny little black. Mine was.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances to discuss matters requiring confidentiality and or of a privileged nature, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Toms River, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey as follows. The Township Council will now conduct a private executive session. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed and or acted upon is as follows. Matters of personnel, attorney-client privilege, and contract negotiations. The following specific items to be discussed are the executive session minutes review from November 12th, personnel issues, Toms River Clerk's Office, and litigation matters, attorney-client privilege for FEMA compliance, substantial damage letters, Anthony Merlino. It is anticipated that the deliberations conducted in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Council that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. Motion to go into executive session, moved by Councilwoman York, second by Councilman Latano, with all in favor at 7:17 p.m.
Southview Drive. I get summer blowing up, and then winter, I'm good. It's you guys. When one switches. Yeah, 2%. I don't disagree with you. You're on the list. We applied. It's in my budget. This is a big. Spring. Usually what I do is I send the first letter out. Usually people will love us. They sign right away. And then the stragglers. And then I send the second letter. The third letter, somebody like you, I'll give the list of people bang on doors. Oh, we did. Oh, absolutely. Remember that. I hold the meeting. You know what happens now? I speak with there's always a couple out there that hold it all up. And again, I've never not I agree with you. I'm gonna give this two minutes. Maybe three. Hold on, let me finish later. Yeah, 7, 25. There will be times. I live on Hunt too. I drive for that reason. Gotta get home. She's got us. That's a good thing for me. That's what we chose. That's why we lease the cars.
My father and any of us who have cars for 10 years, we've all driven garbage. Yeah, we drive garbage. Garbage, but it's garbage.
You know what limits the project? You know what person with the most garage. I had a very good presentation that explains that. Here's my road, and you guys live in your driveway, so you sit it, I come and pick it up. But I have to make sure that, at least you're still sloping toward, I can't send the water back. So that's what limits me. And I can do cuckoo things with trench drains in front of the door, maybe a check valve, but at some point, that's what limits me. Actually,
You may all make a side of that point, hey, listen, I'm the only one
houses up to these things space to pick up the
I'll
road.
take it on the chin, I'll elevate my head up.
Your neighborhood's a little
I'll raise
nicer.
my garage door 6 inches. You might say that.
Yeah,
Because you may, because you have the gable end, you might be able to. You may not be able to.
That I gotta go rebuild and rip all that out.
Listen, get rid of your garage. I got the same kind of question. Actually, let's do the same stuff. Take care of it. Where's my girlfriend?
Now
So they have no home, they have no, some of them have lost their baby or their parent or their spouse. I mean, there's gotta be kids that were killed, you know what I mean? And they can't name everyone, but it's so pitiful. Oh, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. You wonder what is going on.
This is the rating, so this is January 19th, and that's the height of the water. And that's elevation 3. So this was that weekend you're talking about.
You know, I would see
that
you
was this
around. But, you know, we come and we go at different times, and we weren't here, and then when I came
This was
home,
just that week, October 2nd to
heard
November 6th, that 1 week. And remember, it came up and went away, and it came back again. See the double humps? That was it, yeah. So that's the stuff. Well, don't get me wrong, it only dropped to 2, which is a normal flood anyway. It went from really bad to bad to really bad.
I feel sorry for these people. Coming here, you hear all the complaints of people that are so legitimate. Their complaints are really legit. And, you know,
This shows that when I tell people,
I feel bad for these ones where they're like in limbo. They don't know what to do. They're waiting for this. They're waiting for that. Nobody can tell them anything. That's the status quo. You know, at least if you get an answer, you can deal with it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you can deal with it somehow. But this one, you can't do anything. You don't know what to do. Somebody's gonna. I'm surprised that more people. I guess I don't come down to these meetings. Do you ever? Yeah. A friend of mine was here. I didn't even know until the meeting was over. And she got down 3 or 4. That's tomorrow. I thought that was for tonight. Which one is that thing? They never came out. I thought that was supposed to be tonight and then moved it up. Yeah, they come. Sure there's going to be a no, I don't agree with that at all. On Hooper Avenue? When I read in the paper what this mayor is hoping for down there, don't make this a city. It's a town. Keep it a town. The road is wants to be. Who wants a city here? Nobody wants a city here. The road. I'm sure that they really can't handle it. I mean, it's a mess. On Hooper 166 was a mess. I don't know what they're gonna do, but you can't tell me it's gonna make it great, because it won't.
I couldn't read the names back where I was sitting. I couldn't read the names.
Oh. This guy's leaving. Turn back? Yeah. That's the one who's given all the, he's the one who was recently put in. That is.
He came to our front door.
Oh, did he? Yeah. No, he's the one who's really, you know.
No. Lamb.
Oh, Lamb, Justin Lamb. Yeah, he's not on township committee.
she's leaving the second one.
Yeah,
That she's,
the
she
two.
was leaving, right? And Maria.
I am assuming that she didn't want to come to the meetings because probably she's just going to not show up anymore and it's going to.
Like, oh, they don't want me anymore?
Well, I'm sure she doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I don't blame her. But they did say nice things about her.
Yeah, they did.
And I'm sure that all the work that she did, some good came out of it. But just, yeah, I'm sure she did.
It was very nice to meet you. Me too. Maybe I'll see you at another meeting. Maybe. You never know.
It's tomorrow night, right, a meeting about the town.
That's the planning board.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I don't know, we should come down and.
Yeah, I think
I
I
didn't know
like.
if you were, I didn't know if you were able to attend those meetings. Oh, yeah. Where's the planning board meeting?
Here.
Here.
At 6 o'clock? Yeah. Who sits up there? Different people or the same?
Planning.
Different, yeah.
Planning
People.
board.
I think we should, because that, that 10-foot, that 10-story high-rise downtown here.
Right.
Come on, you're starting to make it like an inner city.
Uh-huh. I'm against that. Oh, yeah.
Any city, inner or outer.
6 o'clock tomorrow night?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's at 6 o'clock on the.
I know.
I went to the website yesterday.
I think I'm coming.
You should, because that's a big
Yep.
thing.
Are they still moving forward with that? Did they decide to move forward? Well, they're deciding. They're deciding. Yeah. It hasn't come to a final decision yet. No, but soon.
I thought it did.
No. Maybe it's
Well,
tomorrow.
I mean, as
or
far as
maybe
I could read in the paper,
Tomorrow might be the
they
final.
had the whole contract with that guy. They gave him no taxes for 30 years or something
It's
to build that,
ridiculous. The whole
that building.
And
So
we
that means
bought-
all of us as homeowners are gonna pick up the
Tom's River
taxes.
bought that property for
For
millions.
for him, putting up that 10-story building? And he doesn't have
That's
to
a
pay
lot of
any
people,
taxes
but-
on that
What
building
kind of
for 30
traffic is
years?
gonna be there? What kind of traffic is gonna be downtown with all those people living there?
I can't see it.
But see, don't forget, they're still gonna have to allow affordable housing. That's.
They need to fulfill their responsibility.
Right.
That, they,
I don't know how they're gonna do that.
remember I told you the medical
That's
building
one
bought my
way they
property in
plan to
Short
do
Hills?
it.
Well, they blew what they
to
wanted to
make
do here, so they sold the
low-class
Silverman
living
Development Group, it's a nationwide outfit. They wanna put
But
82
they have to,
condos in
you
there.
know, they have to-
Some of them have to be low income.
well, I don't know what their
You know what
obligation
Short
is.
Hills is like.
And they were speaking that they have children. Like, I can't see many children. The way that they were talking, they were like about families, I
They
don't,
just looked
I
at
just don't see it.
To live
Say
there?
that too
Yeah.
loud.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
well, that's what's gonna happen.
I know.
They owe something like
They had a representative from the
3,400 and some
hospital come in and
units
say
of
that they were gonna
affordable housing.
utilize it
No,
for
they
the
haven't
interns.
satisfied, because they paid other towns to do it.
That's what they wanted to do, they wanted to have a
Got
contract.
12
I don't know
going
if
in
it's a
line,
hospital
if that
or
goes through, and it should.
partnership or something.
The people in the back sued
But,
them.
yes,
They sued
you
Summit
have to
Medical.
house any interns that would work at the
Forget what
community
happened with
center.
Silver.
Yeah, well, now they
He
have,
won in
you know,
court,
to teach in
and where the
hospitals,
Short
so
Hills
they
Mall
have all
is,
these
there's one going in just before there.
But when you start to, when you start to do that,
Goes in and it
I
goes
mean,
like this.
Resident
one of the
living.
teaching hospitals that I'm aware of
80
is
some
Robert Wood
units in
Johnson. I
there,
don't want to see Robert Wood
something.
Johnson, I don't want to see what it
Something like
runs
that.
with.
In mine, and that
Tom's
was like
River looks
64
runs
units
with,
going
like,
in.
Oh, it's
Affordable housing, but
like
they've got
a
to satisfy
city. This is a
3,400.
town.
They can't
Keep it
pay,
a town.
they used to pay
I
like
mean,
Moore and Irving
yeah.
and other
I want
towns.
to live the city
Oh,
life,
well,
go
we'll
to
pay
the
you to
city.
take over this. Against the
Bring
law.
it here.
Can't do it anymore.
I don't see it.
So I'm just sitting back waiting to
Good,
sit there.
yeah, I think I will.
Yeah.
I'm out, so I don't care, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I guess it'll be busy.
Nice to meet you. See you home. Nice to meet you.
jacket and stuff up here.
Good thing you remembered. Do I have a motion to go back into public session?
Motion to go back to public session.
All in favor? Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes of October 12th, 2021? Motion made by Councilman Latano, second by Councilman Turnback. Councilman Latano.
Yes.
Councilman Turnback. Councilwoman Yurick.
Yes.
Councilman Kopp.
Yes.
Councilman Roderick, absent. Council, absent. And Council President Gagan.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Amen.
Thank you, Al.